Welcome to Pop Chat. My name is Annette Tarpley, and I am the host of Pop Chat. And I thought I added Paul to the stage, but I didn't. So, hey, Paul, how you doing? I
Yeah,
have
I'm
with
doing
me,
good, thank you.
I have with me Paul Calvert, also known as Paul Bernard, and we're going to be talking about his new book. And I'm really excited to get to know about that a little bit more. One of the things I wanted you to do is go ahead and introduce yourself, Paul. Tell us a little bit about you. Your situation and where you live is a little bit different from many people around. So I kind of wanted you to tell us a little bit about you and your situation, where you live, and your writing and so forth.
Well, I'm from the UK originally, from the north of England, from a city called Carlisle, but I've been living for over 20 years in the Holy Land. So I spent about 10 to 12 years living in Jerusalem, and now I'm living in Bethlehem. And I've been in Bethlehem for about 11 years now. So it's been a real joy and excitement to live right here in the Holy Land. And I live about 5 minutes away from where Jesus was born. So it's a very, very beautiful place, very beautiful area. It's also a very difficult place and difficult area politically with everything that's happening and going on and everything. But it is a real joy to be here. And I work basically as a journalist here, getting to interview all kinds of people from all kinds of different backgrounds. And it's just a real just joy to be here.
Very cool. I always think that that's interesting. And you've done a lot of high profile type people that you've interviewed too. So, not all of us get to do that. Not that you're not high profile, Paul, because you are, but
I think
you
one of
have.
my favorite interviews that I'd done was with David Suchet. So if you watch the Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot's, he was in Bethlehem one time, and I knew he was coming, and I tried to chase him down, and they told me in the end, and I really felt on my heart, God gives you the desires of your heart. That was really just something that I really had, and then they told me, sorry, he's gone, and I was so disappointed. And then on the Monday, I went up into Bethlehem to go and record some news from the municipality, and there he was, right in the middle of Bethlehem. And I went up and said, "Oh, I've been trying to get an interview with you," and he gave me an interview. And then he was supposed to interview the mayor, but the mayor cancelled on him. So when I went into the municipality building, I said he was there. They said, "Oh, well, welcome him in to come and take some photographs from the roof." So I ran back out and said, "They want you to come in." And in the end, he actually got the interview with the mayor that he wasn't supposed to get. So that was just a real
Wow.
great blessing just to spend a bit of time with him.
And that was who again?
David Suchet.
So who is
So
that?
he played Poirot in the British versions of the Agatha Christie's Poirot
Oh,
murder
okay.
mysteries. So I'm
I,
sure they've
I
been in America.
probably know him by sight and maybe not
Yeah,
his name. Yeah, so that's really cool. So
yeah.
I have a friend that lives over in the UK that does not Agatha Christie, but she's a novelist and she's been on Pop Chat before. She does Sherlock Holmes kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and it's very interesting. And she's done very well with it. So, but you have a new book out. It's a children's book.
Yes, it's called the Trafalgar Square Christmas Tree. So, just a little bit of the history is that during the Second World War, Great Britain helped out Norway during the war. So, as a reward, every year, Norway gives Great Britain a Christmas tree. And we stand that Christmas tree in Trafalgar Square. And of course, on Trafalgar Square, we've got this great big plinth with Admiral Lord Nelson on top of it. So that's where the Trafalgar Square Christmas tree sits. So my book is basically all about a Christmas tree who has the ambition of being the Trafalgar Square Christmas tree. And things don't quite go to plan with this. So I wrote this about 3 years ago, three Christmases ago, and then so I wrote it over Christmas. So every day, and it's poetic, it all rhymes. And I wrote, I think it was about 9 chapters altogether. So every day I wrote a different chapter. And every day I wrote a chapter in Bethlehem. except for one day when I went to Jerusalem and I was going to go shopping, but I was way too early. So I just sat there by Jaffa Gate and wrote a chapter there at Jaffa Gate while I'm waiting to go and do some shopping. And then the next year, I wrote the sequel to it because it sort of finishes at the end where there's something wrong. And so the second book is called The King's Christmas Pudding, about a Christmas pudding that gets mixed up and it goes to the wrong location. And so that was last year that I wrote that one. That isn't out yet, but it will be coming out this year. And then this Christmas, I've just wrote a third one again, which sort of follows on, and it's called the Boxing Day Sale. So the 26th of December is called Boxing Day in the UK, and many times you have Boxing Day sales where they sell everything, but I don't spell sale S-A-L-E. I spell it S-A-I-L because a big flood comes to London and they have to sail their way out of London. So that's the part three. That's the third part of it, of the story. And the first one, the Trafalgar Square Christmas tree, was written in 2023 over Christmas. And here in Bethlehem, we didn't have any Christmas. So Christmas, although you can't cancel Christmas, we didn't have Christmas. We didn't have any Christmas tree. We didn't have any Christmas lights. There was no Christmas celebrations or anything like that because October the 7th, 2023 was the big terrorist attack that hit Israel. And then Israel went into Gaza and the war happened in Gaza, which had a huge effect for the people here in Bethlehem because Bethlehem is built on tourism. So there was no jobs. There was, the tourism just totally and completely collapsed. So people lost their jobs and, it was very, very bad, very difficult. And that's really sort of the atmosphere of where I wrote this book during a time of war and during a time of difficulty.
Wow, that was kind of a sad time then that year. That was 2023.
Yeah,
Christmas,
well, we
Christmas
had two
didn't happen.
Christmases where we didn't have Christmas. So on the 24th of December, the scouts, they march through Star Street and they go and collect the patriarch, and that they march in. All the scouts from all over the area, they come and they march in their different scout troops, and they will bring the patriarch into Bethlehem, and he will come into the church of the Nativity where Jesus was born, and in the evening they will have their midnight mass. So they play their bagpipes, they play their trumpets and their saxophones, all their drums and their big drums, and it's a great, great thing playing Christmas carols and all this. So on this year, they didn't do that. They didn't do any sense of celebration. They marched, but they just marched with banners about like stop the war, there's a war happening and things like that. So it was very, very low key. Then the second year, when I wrote the second book, they virtually done the same thing, but they didn't have banners this time. They just marched through with whistles and they blew a whistle. So basically, it was just a very, very low key and very sad. And you didn't have the Christmas carols playing on the stage and the different, like this year, because Donald Trump got the peace deal and that moved forward, then they had to decide this year, are we going to do Christmas? And the mayor said, yes, we're going to do it. And so then they had to quickly get the Christmas tree sorted out, get all the production of all that sorted out. And then we had the Christmas market, the olive market as well. So it was nice just to see things back again, and particularly just to see the Christmas market back from the international Christmas market with all the different people coming. And we've slowly begun to see the tour groups coming back. So I was very close to Manger Square just before I came on with you, and I saw at least two tour groups that were just walking through Bethlehem. So it's nice that things are starting to get back to normal again.
Yeah, wow. So when you say market, are people selling their wares or something?
Well, they'll set up booths. There's a big, big space in Manger Square, and they'll set up all these booths, and the different countries of the world basically come and sell their wares. So Palestinians sell a lot of things like olive oil and embroidery and things like that, and olive wood. But then you'll have maybe the British coming with the British Council, and they will sell things that are more from a British tradition, different countries from their traditions as well. So it becomes a very international flavor, and it's just nice to see. And just
Is it more economical or cheaper to live there in Bethlehem than it is to be in the UK?
um, I would say it's probably cheaper supermarket wise in the UK. I live in Bethlehem, so the rents and some of the food is much cheaper than it is in Israel. So, for instance, if I want to buy a shawarma here in Bethlehem, I'll pay 19 shekels. If I go to Israel with fries and a drink, I'll probably pay about 50 shekels.
Wow.
A bottle of 2 liter juice will be about 5 shekels. It's probably about 10 shekels in Jerusalem. I find it very difficult when I'm going out somewhere and then I end up paying something like 50 shekels for a shawarma when I can get it for 20 shekels in Bethlehem. So
Wow.
it is much
So what is
cheaper in Bethlehem.
shekels? What is that as far as UK currency, the pound or?
It's about 4.2 shekels to the pound, which I think is about 3.5 shekels to the dollar, something like that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. So did you have a copy of your book with you where you can show
Uh,
it?
I have, but it's in my bedroom. I can go and grab it if you want.
Okay. Well, it was shown on the thing, but who did your illustrations for your book?
Well, I went with one of these vanity companies called Olympia Publishing, which was interesting, a bit of a challenge at times. So they basically do everything for you, and they'll send it back to you. And it took them a lot longer than what sort of the contract said, but that's because they kept getting little bits and pieces wrong. So during the pictures, that there's an artist that they assign to you, and you tell them what you want, and then they will do it. But then we had some pirates in the story, so he has a patch on his left eye, but you turn the page and the patch is on his right eye. So we had to catch all those problems, and then one of them had a wooden leg. So one page, the wooden leg is on the left leg, and then the next page, it's on the right leg. So I'm like, no, 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 we can't do this. We have to change this because there needs to be consistency all the way through. And then there was one where there's the captain of the ship, and they sent me black and white copies and said, yeah, great. And then when they colored them in, the captain was smoking a pipe. And I'm like, can we have a captain smoking a pipe in a children's book? Is that really a good idea?
Yeah.
So it fits the character, but I didn't know if I really wanted to have. So then we had to change that. So by the time they changed everything and things, it took a long time. And then the book came out maybe later than I would have liked. And then there was a few bits of problems with it. It was interesting doing it with Vanity Publishing. I didn't know how it would work, and I still don't really quite know how well my book has done. And it's made it difficult because the next book that you want to produce, you've got nothing to go on. And even my third book now, I still don't have anything to go on, and it's another year after that. So it's it was a good. I don't know whether it was a good choice. Sometimes you hear bad things. Sometimes you're not sure. I've heard things that are not very fair. They said, "Oh, well, they're very bad at there's errors and mistakes." Well, there's only errors and mistakes if you haven't caught them. Where for me, I went in and I caught these errors and mistakes because they always give you the copy. Let us know if you want to write this. Say this is it, that's it, final, and sign off on this. Well, if you don't, if you sign off on it and there's errors, then of course the errors will go through. So it's been interesting. I don't know if it's been frustrating as well, working with like a vanity publisher. But yeah, so we've done that for the first one. We've got the second one. I'm still not quite decided whether I want to do the third one, but in some ways I want to keep everything together. So maybe we will go with the vanity publisher as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is it all on Amazon?
Yeah, they put it onto Amazon. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's under right? Under Calvert?
Sorry. Yeah, it's under
Is
my
it
name,
under
Paul Calvert. Yeah.
right?
So it's called the
Very good.
Trafalgar Square Christmas Tree by Paul Calvert. And it's a great fun read. And it's not a very long book to read. You can read it very, very quickly. But it's just fun and it's a good story. and maybe hopefully it will become a Christmas tradition for people as well. A part of the story isn't always Christmassy. It doesn't really sort of become necessarily Christmassy till the end. So it's a story that if you wanted to read now, out after Christmas, it's still a story in a book you could read, but it's sort of setting things up for Christmas.
That's cool. I wrote a children's book also, and then I have another one that I wanted to have published someday, another story called The Sleepless Queen, kind of about me. But Queen looking for her potion to help her sleep, you know. But one of these
Yeah.
days I'm going to get that published. So, do you want to do some of your poetry?
Yeah, if you want to play some, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Did you want me to play it from the site? I can
Yeah,
do that.
whichever way is easy for you.
Let me see. Let me pull one up. I'm going to have to, let me see if I can. They try kind of change things in StreamYard a little bit. So
Yeah.
share screen.
As soon as you get used to something, then they
Um,
change it.
yeah. I don't know if I want to share screen or site. So let me see. Well, it looks like share screen. So um, there we are. Okay.
So while you're just doing that, I'll just sort of share
Ads.
something up.
I don't know why we're doing ads.
I also go to Jerusalem quite a bit. So going to Jerusalem can be quite a challenge because we have to go through a checkpoint, and sometimes the checkpoint can be closed. So I have a friend today that he was planning to
Showing
go to
it,
Tel
is
Aviv.
it? It's not showing it. Hold on just a
Ah,
moment. Hmm. I wonder if they have a block on that site. Hold on just a second. Um, there's another U down there somewhere. Oh, that was the site. So I don't know why it wasn't showing that. Usually on YouTube. Do you have anything on YouTube?
no, no, I put
Okay,
it
that's
all
okay.
onto them.
Well, do you have anything there to read, or do you know anything by heart?
I've got something that I wrote yesterday and recorded today. If I just bring it up, it's right here on my screen. So, and I read it this morning because I filmed my poems on a Sunday morning, and I've been doing two poems on a Sunday at the moment because I've got a new poem that I write every week, and then for Christmas, because we have the Christian radio station here in Bethlehem, I've also wrote for Christmas the story of Daniel in poetry form. So
Oh,
I've been recording that this week. So I done 8 chapters of the story of Daniel. So I recorded chapter 5 this morning. But this one is a poem just about bills. It's about life, really. So it says, bills, bills, bills. They are what I need to pay. It feels like a new bill comes in every day. I paid the council tax last month, debited from my account, but it's now a new month and I owe a new amount. The rent is due soon. That bill needs to be paid. And that one is important. It cannot be delayed. And then there's my credit card. I pay on plastic. It's so easy to use. It's really fantastic. Until the bill comes in, then I find out how much I owe. When the bill arrives, then I truly know. The water bill, the gas bill, and the electricity bill too. They're all sending me bills. That's new. All these bills arrive. They're coming all the time. Looks like I'm going to be busy doing overtime.
that was good. You always have your poetry is always very clever and usually amuses me and makes me laugh when I listen to it. I usually go, "That's good, Paul." So you
I
have
like to
your
try and write. I like to try and write a poem where you don't necessarily know how it's going to end. So, like, there was one day I was here in Bethlehem, and this dog came up behind me, and he was really scruffy and he looked really bad. He hardly had any hair on him. And it gave me a thought, I could write a poem about that. So I tried to write it a little bit like a murder mystery, like I'm being followed. There's someone behind me. And so you think, oh, wow, someone's going to come and steal my money or something like that. Then right at the very end, you find out it's a dog that's wanting to steal your sausages. So I
Oh,
try
that's
to write little
cool.
stories, poems that you don't quite know how the ending is going to be.
Yeah. How often do you write?
I try to write a poem every week if I can, because I put one up onto the Rumble every week. So it's sort of like replacing one that I've already just used. So I try to do that. I've been writing basically poems for about 5 years. So now it's becoming the challenge to know what to write. So, of course, Easter's coming up in a few months' time. So I'm sort of preparing now some ideas for Easter. I'm loading up these stories of Daniel ones at the moment. So that's 8 weeks worth of poems that I don't really have to think of anything too much. But it's sort of getting now the challenge is to think of different subjects, different ideas. I have a cat. I have a few cats. So my cats have given me quite a few good poems as well. Then I'm in my 50s, so life at 50, walking into a room and forgetting what you want and all these sort of things. So just poems about life in general and life at 50 and all these type of things. And then maybe little bits of comedy ones as well, maybe ones to do with the news, things that are happening in the news. So we've been writing one called Trump's Hair, about Trump's hair always wanting to get into trouble.
That
And they've
was the
just been a
one
little bit of
that
fun.
the one that I tried to play. Actually, I realize what the thing is. It looks like they changed their format to that. And it looks like I
Uh,
need to add that to the stage. It used to just play.
yeah.
And I was going to say I could try to play that again. I think I figured out how to do it. They changed how they do things on here. The Trump's hair, that one was amusing. Let me see if I can get it. Okay, there you are.
There we are.
Let me go back and start from the beginning here.
Special forces were on a helicopter. A mission had been planned. Each person had a map. They were over Venezuela. Ropes were lowered down. Now the special forces were in town. They had their night goggles on so they could see in the dark. They swiftly moved. Not a single dog did bark. But there was a trap. Maduro's men were there. Special forces were stuck. There was an evil stare. You can't catch me, Maduro shouted with a smile. He'd captured the special forces with elegant style. But stowed in the back of the helicopter, out of sight, was Trump's hair. He had sneakily joined this historic night. He came down a rope to the music of he was the one. He jumped on Maduro's face. Maduro couldn't see at all. He was left humiliated. The mighty man was small. Trump's hair had captured El Presidento, and his men had to let the special forces go. They took him back by helicopter to the USA to pay for all he'd done. It was a victory that Trump's hair had won. Trump's hair was so excited he shouted, "What next is planned?" and saw on a secret paper the name Greenland.
That was good. Well, I figured out how to do it finally. But the interesting part was, and I don't think you saw that when I was trying to do it earlier. I didn't know if you could hear some audio or not when I wasn't able to figure out how to bring it up there. But they had a couple ads that they played first. So
Yes.
I guess I'm not
Yeah.
on the ad-free version. Yeah.
Yeah. They
So
do have ads on there as well. But that's where I get a little bit of money for every time someone plays my poems. But it really is nothing. I've made about $50 in 5 years. So every week I make about 20 cents on my poems. So it's really nothing.
I did not know that you get something for every time they play it. Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
Some poems do really well. Sometimes other poems don't do so well. So, but usually it's about 20 cents. per poem, something like that. So in 5 years, we've made nearly $50. So it's not a lot. So
Don't
I'm not
spend it
going to
all
retire.
on one shot, right?
Yeah.
$50, yeah. Which I guess it would pay for some of the things you can get at the market there.
Yeah, maybe one or two things. Yeah.
Other than that, so you said earlier that you started writing poetry 5 years ago. Is it just been 5 years that you've been writing it?
Well, no, I really started when I was about 16. I left school at 16, and I remember there was a competition to to write something about Cumbria, where I live. So I wrote this silly story about the Cumberland pig and how he became extinct, because that was a real pig and it really is extinct. So I just done a funny competition entry about that, and it was a poem, and it won. So I got the chance to go onto radio to read my poem, and then it was in the newspaper. That was sort of the prize. And then I wrote another one to follow on, and another one. So I made it a bit of a trilogy, and then I didn't really do much with it. Then I lost part two and part three. So then, like 18 years later, when I'm here, I decide to write more of that, put it all together, and I wrote a book. So I've got 8 different stories of 8 with 8 chapters in them, and everyone has a bad guy in it. So, for instance, the farmer was the bad guy in the first story. We had a lion tamer that was a bad guy in the second story. A vet, all to do with animals. That the bad guys. It's a little bit like sort of James Bond, but he's the prime minister. But he's a pig that became the prime minister. So
Wait, that
I
was
wrote
the
that.
very first poem that you wrote, and you got it. You were in the media and everything else. The very first poem you wrote.
Well, I don't know whether it was the very first one, but it could well have been. And then over the years, 18 years later, we made it into a book, and I published it here in Bethlehem. But unfortunately, I didn't do the spell check, so it's full of spelling mistakes. But we've still been able to sell a few. So then this time, then I done a second book, basically about Israel, Israel and the Palestinian territories, with like 10 stories from Israel and 10 stories from Palestine, and we put that into a book. So then when the Trafalgar Square Christmas tree came along, this really is a true book with the ISBN. It goes to the library and things like that. People can buy it on Amazon, where all the others have just been, if I've been speaking in a location, I've been selling those books as well, where this is sort of more out there in the world, and for people to be able to buy anywhere around the world and download it for Kindle as well. So yeah, so this is the first major production type of thing, and it also has illustrations in it as well, which I think really helps the story as well to take off. When you're reading the poetry, but you also see a nice picture that's linked to that story as well. It's very, very nice.
Right. I think that's the thing about a children's book, is that you need to get it illustrated, right? And
yeah, well,
that can sometimes be a costly thing for some people.
Well, I asked somebody here in Israel, and they were going to charge me about $200 for an A4 sheet. And so that's where the Vanity Publishing came in, because they done me 18 pictures. And if I'd have done the 18 pictures with this other lady at 200 a sheet, it might have been cheaper if I'd done it smaller. I don't know. We didn't go any further, but it was quite a lot, and if that was me doing it myself, it would have been quite a lot of money. So to let them do it, and also to do all the publishing and put it all together and everything, I thought wasn't a really bad deal in the end. It's been a little bit of a battle with them, a struggle with one thing and another, just getting things correct and right and everything. But I'm not. I wouldn't say it's been a bad thing. It's just been, it went. The biggest problem for me was they had problems over just before Christmas. Well, Christmas is the time where I'm going to sell more books, because it's based on a Christmas story. So it was a little bit of a battle, but we got there in the end.
Yeah, it is a bit of a challenge, though, to find that, and then for a regular book, you just need the words. You don't. I mean, sometimes you need illustrations, but not with a child. I remember when I was looking at find mine.
It
I
really
was
needed
fortunate
the,
to find somebody from the Philippines that was a lot cheaper. So
yeah, it really
okay.
needed the illustrations to go with it, just to really make the book and to make it more enjoyable
Yeah.
as well. So yes, yeah.
So did you dedicate your book to someone? The tree
I
one?
didn't. No, no, I didn't. I didn't dedicate it to anybody. I don't know whether I should, but no, I didn't. No.
I didn't know if there was like maybe a child or something that you knew that you a niece or nephew or something that you do you have siblings?
I've got three brothers. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a twin as well.
Are
Yeah.
you? Are you
Yeah.
identical or fraternal?
We're not identical. No, we're completely opposite in every single way. Yeah.
Wow. But are
Yeah.
you still close to him, I suppose?
Not really. Actually, I'm not really all that close to my brothers in some ways. We don't really chat much, outside of coming home. So when I come home, I see them and say hi, and that's about it, really. Yeah, we all live our
Yeah.
own separate lives, and so yeah, yeah. It's a shame in some ways, but yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
chat to
have
my father.
twin grandsons, and I didn't realize how common they were until you have, some in your family, and then there's quite a few twins around the world, I guess. What were you going to
Yeah.
say, I'm sorry?
I speak to my father quite a bit. We do it over Messenger, everything. When I first came here to the Holy Land was 2023 for the first main time for a long period. And I didn't have internet. I didn't have a mobile phone. There wasn't Facebook. There wasn't YouTube. We didn't have a television. So I used to bring a whole shoebox of cassettes to listen to stories and things like that. And every night I'd listen to like an A side or a B side of a cassette. And then when I went back home, I'd bring another box of cassettes back. But just the way that everything has changed nowadays, digital downloads and all this sort of stuff. So I do spend a lot of money buying books. The books that I enjoy at the moment is James Patterson with the Alex Cross series. So
Mm. Do
Apple
you
were a
do,
little bit crap.
so you do Audible books? You do Audibles?
Yeah, I buy audiobooks, yes. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
iTunes were a little bit crafty because they offered you this book for like £1.99. And then I listened to it and it was a fantastic story. And I got so hooked, I buy a new book all the time. So I'm just trying to catch up with the Alex Cross series. So they hooked me with a
Mm.
cheap price book. And now I'm paying full price for all the other books. But also,
Oh
as
my
well, what I
God.
really enjoy is British comedy. British comedy from like the 1950s, the 60s, and the 70s, all that stuff.
Mm.
So, on my day off, I'll just be sitting outside listening to the book. I'll listen to an Alex Cross book with like a murder mystery, and then I'll go and listen to some comedy from the 1950s and 1960s. And I really enjoy
Yeah.
that. That's my day where I just sit and listen to comedy.
Do you do it on audiobooks or is it
Yeah.
Audible? Audible?
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
buy them from iTunes audiobooks.
Oh, okay. I have the
Yeah.
app Audible, and I love listening to Audible books, especially if I'm traveling. One of the last ones I listened to was a Harry Potter series, which I loved. The
Yeah.
narration on it was so great. And
Well,
and I went through.
I have a blind friend here in Bethlehem, and she's in her 70s, 75. She's old, and she was brought up in children's homes, and I don't think she was necessarily treated very well. I think she was a little bit rebellious, so she never got into classic literature or anything like this. And then somebody gave her an iPod and you can put the voice on it so that you can press it and do that. So now she loves listening to audiobooks. So she'll go onto YouTube and she'll listen to some books. So I've sent her different books, like my favorites are Agatha Christie. So I've got a few Agatha Christie mysteries. So I'll go onto YouTube and find out what kind of book and send her all these different books and she can listen to them. And she really loves that because she's sort of catching up on a sort of a childhood that she didn't get because she didn't get to read any of this literature. And it is sort of her life now, just being able to listen to some of those books.
Yeah, that's exciting, actually. I imagine for
Yeah,
somebody that is minus a sense,
yeah.
That's, yeah. I asked you a question, probably well, you've been on here a couple other times, so, but I don't know if your answer has changed. I don't know if you remember the question, the Aladdin's lamp one.
I don't remember.
If you run across Aladdin's lamp tomorrow and you are granted three wishes, you can wish anything you want to wish. What would you wish for?
Oh, that's quite something. Rich and famous would probably be something that you'd like to go for, but no. Um, as a believer in Jesus, I'd like everyone to have the same faith that I had, that they understood the grace and the mercy of God. I think that would be a real blessing. Um, just to have really good friends that you can, hang around with. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard
That's
to think.
you get one more. You can be selfish.
Well, oh, lots of money.
Yeah, that's right. One of mine is always I want there to be a poetry cruise someday that I form this poetry cruise and all these poets come together on this cruise. So I
Yeah.
think
Oh,
that
that,
would
oh,
be
that would be
so
very nice.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
my dream. I don't know if it'll ever come into fruition, but it definitely is one of my dreams. But now I know that you said you have cats, and we've talked about this before about how many you had, and your number might have changed since the last time. But how many do you have now?
I think it's changed. One of them's actually right behind me.
Oh, really? Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Introduce. Oh, a white cat.
with
Pretty.
blue eyes. No,
Blue
Sam.
eyes. Oh, how cute. She's like looking at the screen like, what's going on? And
Well,
what
I've had so many. I've had probably up to about 11, 12, 15. But a lot of the kittens, they died because there's a virus here. And then I
oh,
had Her Majesty, she had one blue eye and one green eye, and she got this virus. And I fought to save her life, and she died. And then Elias, the white cat, he got the virus and he died. And there was another white one. So quite a number of them. So at the moment, I've only got three cats, and all of these three cats, I'm sure, have had the virus but survived because there was
wow.
some powder that I gave them. It's like they starve themselves to get to death, so they stop eating, and they don't
Oh,
want to eat. And no matter what you give them, Her Majesty, she would drink the milk, and then she just got so weak, but she wouldn't eat any meat or anything like that. And you're trying as hard as you can, so it was a very, very sad time because she was a really lovely cat. She used to
so
stand
was
on the
it
fridge.
something locally that was going around in the feline community as far as
Yeah, there seems to be a virus here that it wiped out the kittens. And then I went to a vet and they said, well, you need to take this powder. So I mixed it and injected it in their mouth. Then when Her Majesty got it, I didn't recognize it at first because the adult cats never got it. It was always the kittens. So for a few days, I didn't realize that she had it. And then I injected her with it, but it just didn't work. And she just basically just lost her strength and died in the end. And it was very sad. So yeah, I've only got three cats at the moment. I've got a disabled cat. He's grey, and he's like meow 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 all day. And I think what it is, because he's disabled, he can't climb over the fence. So when he sees all the other cats go, he wants to go himself, and he just stands there meowing. So I've had to open the door to let him go outside where there's a little bit of a road, just so that it can at least get out and see what's there, because otherwise he can't get anywhere because he can't climb the fence. So
oh,
yeah, and
wow, that's
I've got a ginger
interesting.
cat as well that sort of is in and out. She's obviously getting fed somewhere else because she's really fat and she doesn't eat much here. But
Now, when you
yeah,
talk ginger cat, are you talking like a tabby, what we call a tabby, maybe?
yeah,
We call
yeah,
them
ginger tabby
tabbies.
cats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I thought we'd play another one of yours. I just found one on there called the squirrel. I think it's a
the
squirrel.
squirrel. Yes, yes,
Mr. Squirrel.
Mr. Squirrel. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna add that to the stage. We'll listen to that real quick. Let me see here. Start it up.
Mr. Squirrel is very busy, working away. He's collecting lots of acorns today. It's his harvest time, a time to prepare. Up the oak tree he goes, right up there. He knows winter is coming, frost and snow, so he needs to prepare. Up the tree he must go. He finds an acorn, but it's not for today. This acorn is for later and must be buried away. On a leafy branch an acorn sits up high, right up in the tree, nearly touching the sky. But this is no problem for Mr. Squirrel. Up he goes, with his little feet and his little toes. He takes the acorn, then back down the tree he does run, and as the sun begins to set, his day's work is done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Where I live,
like
where we
Mr. Squirrel.
used to live, where we had the farm, we had this big oak tree. And if you went down the road, there was often, you'd maybe see a squirrel in like a little bit of the wooded area. And in the UK, we have the native red squirrel, but we've brought in the grey squirrel, and the grey squirrel is taking over and killing the red squirrel. You know, so it's been a bit of a problem. Yeah, yeah.
When I lived in Iowa, we had red squirrels, and then here in Virginia, there's gray squirrels. But I thought the red squirrels are a little bit bigger, aren't they, than the gray squirrels?
I'm not sure. I think they're sort of fairly similar in size, but the gray squirrels are taking over the red, and the red squirrels have become quite rare now. Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Become a dying breed of sorts. Are you a dog person at all, or just mostly cats?
I actually prefer dogs than cats in one sense, but because I live here and then I go back to the UK and travel and everything, so it was never really, and I never really intended to have cats. It's just that they got landed on me because the cat had kittens in the shed. So I ended up with the cats, and then I got more kittens, and it just went crazy. But I prefer a dog, and I grew up on a farm, so we always had a border collie, and I used to love having a border collie, and particularly when they got a little bit longer hair. So I remember if I saw the border collie lying in the sun, I would run down there and I would just lie there on the floor, putting my arm around him and give him a great big hug. And I went to Tel Aviv actually just recently to do an interview with someone, and there in the office was a beautiful border collie. So I was just so excited. I didn't want to leave because they had such a nice border collie in the office.
They are such smart ones too. The border collies are just really smart and
they're very intelligent. Yes,
they're great.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned dogs, cats. You ever known anybody that's had a ferret?
I think my brother had a ferret. Yeah.
They seem to be a little mischievous.
Yeah,
whenever I see any video footage, they just seem to be kind of a little bit more.
They can be quite smelly as well.
Oh, really? Are they have a musk? Are they related to? Not related to the skunks, are they?
No, I don't think so. There's a British comedy called Last of the Summer Wine about three old men that just wander around Yorkshire, and one of them's scruffy, and he's always been thought that he has ferrets down his trousers because that's where he keeps his ferret. So that's a traditional thing that you keep the ferret down your trousers. So it's a classic comedy written by a classic writer called Roy Clark, who wrote other stuff like Mrs. Bouquet, Keeping Up Appearances, and Open All Hours. But this was one called Last of the Summer Wine, and he kept ferrets as well. But I'm sure my brother kept a ferret at some point. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. So, do you have any thoughts regarding poetry and any kind of initiatives that we can do to spread poetry and make people more interested in poetry?
Well, what I'm wanting to do is, because I speak in schools here in the Holy Land, I wanted to go into one of the schools where I speak to do a school assembly. And I was thinking, it would be really nice if we could get them to write poetry and maybe play on our radio station here. It would probably have to be in Arabic. I play my poetry on the radio station, but it plays in English. But to get some of the young people to do it in Arabic, I'd have to lead it a little bit, because if you didn't, every single poem would be about occupation, occupation, occupation. This is what happens. This is what happens. This is, and about, no, 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 no. I don't want the political side. You write me a poem about your cat. You write me a poem about how beautiful it is walking down the street. I don't want to hear, because everything here is about occupation. So
Yeah.
monuments and everything is all about the political. No, 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 no. I don't want to go down that. I just want you to write a beautiful poem. So maybe we will do it. I need to speak to the head and see if we can do it at some point, and just get people just to write a great poem just about life, about love, anything, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, So
Yeah.
I would like to do that at some point.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, which is exactly another question I was going to ask, and that is, do you think that poetry may be less popular than it once was in history because perhaps we don't have it in the school system as much, or really, a part that it shows it as an integral and important part of literature. Sometimes I feel like we've kind of taken that away from the school systems, or at least the ones in America, I think.
Yeah,
But
I think it's
yeah,
important to have it in the school system. It's such a long time ago since I was in school. I think I remember that I did have to write a poem in school. And if I remember right, I think today is Robbie Burns' night. I don't know, as an American, whether you know who Robbie Burns is. He was a Scottish poet, and he wrote, there's this poem about the wee beastie, and you have to have the Scottish accent to speak about the wee beastie and the haggis and things. And I think, if I'm right, I think today is Burns' night. So where you'll probably have people reading the Robbie Burns poems. I'm trying to get my little bit of a Scottish accent out there.
now you said the Scottish thing, and I was curious about that too, because when I was looking on the Rumble site where your poems are, you had one about a Scot or something about Scotland or something.
Yeah,
That
I think I have two poems that if I was a Scotsman, what would I be like? So yeah, yeah, because I live so close to Scotland, so we're about 5 minutes away. And for people
wow.
who don't understand, soon as you get over the border of Scotland, there's a place called Gretna Green, and Gretna Green is where it's become a traditional place where people get married. So people will get married over the anvil where they used to make for the horses' shoes and things like that.
Mhm.
And we have traditions where a chimney sweep will be there. You take a photograph with the chimney sweep to bring you luck. But it's in Gretna Green, and the reason why Gretna Green has become such a big place for marriage is because the law was to get married, I think was in 18 in England, but it was 16 in Scotland. So people used to run away and elope, and the first place they would come to was Gretna Green, and they would get married there. And that's why that's become built up as such a big place to get married, right there in Gretna Green. And in fact, I have a pastor friend who does a lot of wedding ceremonies there in Gretna Green.
Wow, Gretna Green. So, in your poems about Scott stuff, did you do a Scottish accent in it? Did you try to do one in there?
If I remember right, I did on the first one that I did, and I've got this hat. It's actually sort of a Scottish hat, but with a bit of ginger.
Is it a
And I
is
had
it
it,
like
so
a
I was
tam?
wearing
You
them.
call them tams? Tam?
I can't remember what they're called, but they could well be. So I read that, and I tried to do my Scottish accent, but it wasn't very good.
Yeah. Of course, you all call things different. I actually, is probably a week or two ago when I was looking up, the differences between what we call things in America and what you all call things over in the UK.
Yeah,
Like we call a trunk, you call it a boot,
yeah.
and things like that. It was really rather remarkable how many things that there were that.
Well, I've just been with my friends tonight, and that was one of the subjects that we spoke about, because one of my friends is American, and we were talking about aluminium and aluminum. So you say aluminum,
They
we
call
say
it
aluminium. Yeah, we
Really?
say aluminium. And we
My
say, well,
my
we're
mother
British,
used.
we have the words first, so you've changed it. So we were
Yeah,
having a lot of fun
that
tonight
is
just talking about that. and tomato and tomato.
Macho,
And
yeah. Yeah.
there is a great British
And you're talking
comedian
about
called
sidewalk.
Michael.
You all call a sidewalk what?
Yeah, what do we call it?
Was it a walkway or a pathway or?
Yeah, pathway, a pathwalk. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a comedian called Michael McIntyre, and he talks about how Americans have changed the names, and he's sort of saying they literally say sidewalk. You know, they were walking everywhere, so they had to say it was on the side. You know, and eyeglasses.
Right.
They were putting the glasses on their knees and putting it on their elbows and their arms, but then they had to change it for their eyes to explain where it went. Very funny, very great comedian. Yeah, just talking about the differences between the language between Americans and English. So yeah.
And you call a eraser, like on a pencil, a what? Is that
A rubber.
a rubber? A
Yeah,
rubber. Well, which
yeah.
it rubs it off, doesn't it? That makes sense.
We would call it an eraser and a rubber, but yeah, we call it a rubber. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. There's just so many differences. And of course, schedule, you say schedule,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
all kinds of things like that. So yeah, I guess you did have it first. Let me change it. Now, something that drives me crazy, just because I'm used to my American way of spelling things, is there's a lot of words where you all, for instance, criticize instead of using a Z, you use a S, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of those kinds of words, and I'll see it and I instantly want to correct it, but I
Well,
realize that I'm correcting it according to what I do. That's normal. And I think it's normal in India. They do it the Brit way.
but
They,
color as well. For instance, you spell color COLOR, and we put a U in it.
you,
COLOUR. Yeah.
yeah, I guess, us Americans, much as we have to break away some way. Let's just break away a little bit in the language area. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's actually when I was looking through all those words and just this whole list of probably about 100 different words that the words are different as far as what we refer to as. I just thought it was very interesting. I thought, oh, I didn't know that they call that, and but it was very interesting. But well, Paul, I can't tell you how great it's been to have you back on here again. Very happy to hear about your books. Now, just clarify for me again, because you've written 3 books. They kind of, I guess, that's a kind of a trilogy. They're kind of semi-connected as far as the children's books are concerned.
Yeah. So it is a trilogy, but the only the Trafalgar Square Christmas tree is out at the moment.
Okay.
That is on Amazon, or if you wanted to go to Olympia Publishers, it's there as well. So that's the only one that's out at the moment. And then probably towards the end of the year, the King's Christmas Pudding will come out. And then next year will be the Boxing Day sale will come out. And they follow one after the other. And they're just good traditional stories for Christmas time for people to read and get put it in the, and they're positive, good stories as well.
Yeah. I'll have to get those. I collect other authors' books, so I'll have to definitely get those. You have me interested because you said something about the Christmas tree, and I guess it's the Christmas tree who's the thinker and is kind of alive, right? And he's wanting to, you said, be that tree in that square or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and that's an interesting concept too, to think of the tree as being this live thing that has those thoughts, and so it should be in children's books, right? They should
Yeah,
come to
and he
life.
goes on an adventure because things don't quite work out as planned. So it
Um,
is a big adventure that he has because it doesn't quite go the way that he thought it was going to go. And of course, in the second book, it goes even more to a big adventure, which is out of this world. And then the third one is another local adventure as well, where things happen and he has to the Christmas tree has to rescue the king. So yeah,
Rescue the King. Oh,
yes,
that's interesting. It's great how your imagination can lead you to places, isn't it? And you can
yeah, yeah.
develop these
I love that.
stories. Yeah,
And I love Christmas as well, so it's great.
yeah, yeah. Christmas is one of my. Well, hopefully next year they'll be able to celebrate Christmas there, right? And
Yeah, well,
Bethlehem.
this year we celebrated Christmas this year, and Bethlehem is the capital of Christmas. So hopefully, I know we've got a few difficult days ahead of us, as far as war is concerned. I don't think the war is over. I don't think the situation is over in Gaza. And we're basically a few weeks ago went to bed thinking the sirens are going to go off tonight, the app's going to go off tonight because there's going to be rockets coming over from Iran. So we're waiting at the moment to see how the situation in Iran develops. So if Donald Trump goes into Iran, then the regime looks like it's collapsing. So they could send 2,000 missiles over to Israel. Before there was a sense of restraint because you don't want to go too far, because if there's sort of a revenge, you could be destroyed and kicked out. Well, now if the regime is totally collapsing, they don't need to have any restraint. So we could have 2,000 missiles coming our way anytime. So we're waiting to see exactly where that's going to happen. I think basically if you're in the Tel Aviv on the beach area of Israel, I think that's where you're in the most danger. I'm in Bethlehem, which is next to Jerusalem. We may be fairly safe there because, well, Bethlehem's a Palestinian city, so they wouldn't necessarily want to hit a Palestinian area. Jerusalem has the mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, so they definitely wouldn't want to hit that. So we may be safe within this area. We've got the nuclear plant as well, which could be a target. So there's a lot of concern over the next few weeks as to exactly how the political area is going to go. So particularly with Iran. So it's going to be
Is there a
interesting.
safe place for you to go to, or I mean, do you feel safe where you are now? Should they be attacked over there?
Well, there's no bomb shelter here. Actually, when the rockets were coming over, we were getting rockets from Gaza, we were getting rockets from Yemen, and we were getting rockets from Iran. I went on the roof and I was filming on the roof. So one rocket exploded right above me. I'm like, oh my goodness, this wasn't a good idea. But I go on the balcony. I take my camera out and I see where I can film. And when Iran were attacking, it was just amazing to film it and to see it. The film didn't actually do justice to actually what was going on. It was just like fireballs going through the sky, and we get a warning that the app will go off and it will tell us go to the shelter. So people in Israel have shelters. In the Palestinian Authority, we don't really have them. We also have a siren close by because the next town is an Israeli town, so their siren goes off. So if I'm in bed, I would never hear that. But if I'm outside, I would hear the siren go off, and it would tell me that right, there's a rocket incoming or something is incoming. So yeah, we do get a warning.
Besides the one that you have published as far as the children's book, do you have other poetry books published?
Just the Cumberland Pig, which is just a private one that's not out there on anywhere to buy. It's just one that I published 500, and wherever I speak, I sell them. So yes, but the main one is the Trafalgar Square Christmas tree.
Very good. Well, I encourage everyone to go out there and get it off Amazon. And thank you again, Paul, for coming back on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and to listen to you. And you're very interesting, and I'm sure that a lot of people will want to follow you. So you can follow him on Rumble. That app Rumble. He has a lot of his video things that he does. And that you are under which name under there?
I can't remember. Is it Paul Bernard? It's either Paul Bernard or Paul Talbot. I can never remember.
It should tell me. Hold on. Let me go back to it and see.
My name is Paul Bernard Calvert, but because I'm in the Palestinian area, we changed my name for security reasons. So I called myself Paul Bernard on Facebook, but I'm actually Paul Calvert. It was just in case, as a journalist, I can interview Israelis and interview Palestinians, and people might think, oh, that's your opinion, and we don't like your opinion. So we just changed my name slightly, which isn't really a change because it is my name.
On Rumble, you are Paul Bernard 5.
Right, that's it. Yes.
Paul Bernard 5. So that's who you are. I think I actually called it first and couldn't find you, and then I put that in. So, but they can follow you on there. You're a prolific poet, and you're always coming up with something exciting and new. But thank you again so much, Paul, and it's
Well,
always a
thank you for having
pleasure.
me.
And you're welcome. And love and blessings to everyone. And
Yes.
please share this video with others so they too can see
Amen.
the wonderful works of Paul. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day, and stay safe.
Yeah, God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.